Hello, Jan.
Hi, Alexei.
Thank you again for joining to this study. It's um, I'm very glad to see you. And before we start, I want to say that you are invited to participate in an interview as a part of the international study of the features of Gestalt therapy training. And this interview will be recorded, and the recording will be made publicly available on the YouTube channel on the Gestalt Research Association.
Hmm.
Um, and is it okay? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I will ask you some questions, and first of all, can you tell about yourself, general information, and how old are you, where you living, what your
Hmm.
nationality, and so on?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, my name is Jan Roubal. I'm living in the Czech Republic, and I'm how old I am? 53, 54 this year. And I started my career as a psychiatrist, and then I became Gestalt therapist, and then supervisor. And I also studied some other approaches, and I parallel to Gestalt therapy. I also follow the line of psychotherapy integration, where I also started a training in psychotherapy integration. So that's my other interest. I was teaching at the university for 20 years now. I'm reducing it now very much, but and I was involved in the research center that we had there. Um, yeah, I'm collaborating a lot with my colleagues from Italy, Gianni Franceschetti and Michela Gicella, in the Turin School of Psychopathology. So we do several online programs and also residential programs for studying psychopathology and field theory approach. And this is my, I would say, main interest for now to explore how field theory can change our way of working as Gestalt therapists and now as Gestalt supervisors also. That's my big part of my work now and professional interest to what supervision and Gestalt therapy is and how to do it. And I lead several trainings for supervisors too.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. Do you want to know anything more? It's in short.
Mhm. Yeah, I have many questions. So, how do you become exactly Gestalt therapist? You said that you studied another approach, and what kind of approach it was?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It just happened. I started to study Gestalt therapy very young. I was still studying medicine at that time, and just it was in the 90s, and our country just has opened to the world after the end of the communist regime. So many approaches were coming from out abroad to our country, and somehow it happened that I met Gestalt therapy there,
Mhm.
and I found it. I mean, it was a good match for me. So I followed it, but it was not a like too kind of a sophisticated choice. It was more like that it happened.
Yeah, I see. So the main interesting questions for me is who is Gestalt therapist and how would you define this role?
Well, uh, well, there, yeah. There was what I'm thinking about is that if to talk about it kind of a technically, which would be like kind of a scientific or research description of what we do as Gestalt therapists. And there was this project some years ago about the fidelity scale. So like that our institute was involved in developing some kind of a scale that we can observe, explore the work of the therapist, and then decide if this is Gestalt therapy, and this is for research purposes. And I think for research purposes, it's interesting, it's useful, uh, but for me, it's more general. It's not only about what we do as therapists, but it's also about our values and kind of a more general attitudes to people and to relationships and to wider environment. So for me, Gestalt therapy is a humanistic and existential approach. So this is the main like description for me. So if we as Gestalt therapists work this way, like being true to humanistic and existential values, uh, I think we can say we are Gestalt therapists, and then who can judge it? I mean, the one way, the formal way, is that we graduate a Gestalt therapy training, so that's the formal stamp on it,
Mhm.
and that's okay. I mean, we need it, of course, but then I think I very much value the what we also explored in a research way at the university is the concept of the personal therapeutic approach, so that each therapist develops uh, their own individual way of working that
Mhm.
somehow matches the personality of the therapist, the story of the therapist, but also the environment and the type of clients that they're working with. So uh, I mean, within this big frame of humanistic existential approach of Gestalt therapy, I think there are many, many individual approaches, and then also some distinguished uh, like streams, let's say, that I can see like internationally there are some streams within the Gestalt therapy that are quite different from each other. They
Mhm.
still are in the frame of Gestalt therapy, but they differ quite a lot.
Mhm.
I like this freedom and
Mhm.
creative tension that
So, the main characteristic is the frame of this role, yes, the humanistic and existential frame.
I think so. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The values of it that we see we prefer to see the human being in front of us, um, and accompany this human being on their unique journey
Mhm. Mhm.
instead of uh, offering some like good methods for
Mhm.
for coping with problems.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. It's not the easiest questions as for me. And can you tell about Gestalt therapist education, how it generally organized, and what are its advantages and disadvantages?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I would like to start in from a like little bit general frame. That during the Gestalt therapy training, the therapists they develop their competencies as Gestalt therapists, and what I like is the concept of competencies developed by John Sperry, the researcher who devoted his work to this topic, and he describes competence as being like as having three aspects. that there is within the competence there are skills, there is knowledge, and there are attitudes. And
Mhm.
I like this that this is what we try to offer to our students, that they develop their competencies in both these three aspects. So of course they need some knowledge, of course they need some skills, and they also need to somehow uh, integrate the humanistic existential values and attitudes into their own values.
Mhm.
So that's I think this is a very basic task of the Gestalt therapy training. At the same time, I would like to say, and this is also what I stress to my students, that the they know already a lot when they enter the training. We work with mainly with the relationship, with the like sensing the other, resonating with the other, uh, like responding to the needs of the other. And these are very natural human skills, I would say, skills of a sensitive human being in a relationship. And these skills people learn during their life from the first day from the day they were born. So when they come, they are, I don't know, 25, 27 years old into the training, they know a lot about these. They have a lot of skills already,
Mhm.
and they don't actually learn much new things in the training. What I think that they do is somehow they learn to value what they already have, and they learn to use it. And then somehow, of course, they can uh, make it with more awareness, develop it in more kind of a delicate skills. Of course, it can be elaborated more, but basically there is not so much new to learn. Maybe, maybe there is more things to unlearn during the training. Yeah,
Mhm.
to unlearn some fixed patterns of boxes of seeing the other, seeing myself, and unlearn or some not only boxes like kind of diagnostic boxes, but also kind of a let's say mm, visions of what is good for the other, what is healthy, what is not healthy. These kind of a preconceptions that we have in our mind. And I think we, in Gestalt therapy training, the main part of it is to unlearn this
Mhm.
so that we can stay there not knowing what is good for the other and 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 calming ourselves down enough so that we can wait for what emerges. And
Mhm.
that,
So,
that
so they learn how do not know
yes,
what they actually know, so sure of.
something like that if you make it really short. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Very interesting. And what are advantages and disadvantages of education, specifically of Gestalt therapy?
Um, It's I think for a lot of people it's kind of a shock in the beginning that they expect kind of education that they were used to at school, where I mean it may not be the same in all countries, but in my country and what I know the countries around, the the school is still based on like marking the mistake. So when you write kind of a uh, paper for your teacher, the teacher reads it and then marks the mistake, and according to the mistakes, you get the mark,
Mhm.
which makes the mistake a figure, and all the knowledge that you have, everything that the competence that you already have, what you can do well, it's somehow. taken for granted, it becomes a ground for the figure, for mistake.
Mhm.
And I think what we try to do in our training is to switch this figure ground dynamics so that what is in the foreground is what people already know, what they have at disposal, what are their competencies already, and that it can be developed. And of course, they make mistakes, but they are kind of a background for their competence. They
Mhm.
can inform them. They can like help them to develop, of course, their competencies. But this is not easy for people who were educated in the traditional system. So they in a way they want us trainers to tell them, okay, what do I do wrong? What should I do better? Yes, and it's frustrating that we don't tell them. Yeah,
Mhm.
we say, okay, I can see that you do this very well, you do this very well, you do this, and here, yeah, I can see you're hesitating, you don't know. Okay, let's study it more, but I will not tell you what is wrong because I
Mhm.
don't want to make it figural, and also because I don't want you to tell to your clients what is wrong with them.
Mhm.
I mean, we as trainers, we are modeling to our students how they will approach their clients. So if we stress the unique way of their like creative adjustment as human beings, and we stress the competencies they acquired in their life and they can use in the training, I really hope that our graduates will approach the same way their clients in their practice, stressing the uniqueness of the creative adjustment and of the competencies of their clients. So that's the very kind of a general frame, but maybe you wanted to ask something more detailed. I don't know.
Mhm. As far as understood, you told about advantages of Gestalt therapy
Oh, right.
trainings. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
maybe is there some disadvantages or not?
Yes, yes. Um, hmm. I I don't know how to name it, but as I told you, I'm involved in two different kinds of trainings. One is the training of psychotherapy integration, and one is the training of Gestalt therapy. So I can compare these two modalities,
Mhm.
and there is a real difference. I mean, the basic principles of teaching are the same. I find it very inspiring to teach in the integrative training, and I mean, many things are similar for me, but the atmosphere in the group, the experience of the people, they're different. So the integrative and the Gestalt therapists, and in the Gestalt therapy group, I must say this is it's more challenging for the trainer. People are more uh, confronting the trainer, confronting each other. Um, I don't know why is it. If it's part of our approach, um, sometimes I think it's kind of a misunderstanding of the very basic concept of authenticity, how we need to be present as human beings there, and the students they often mix it up. Often they think that authenticity is the same like impulsiveness. So when they become impulsive, they feel something and they just express it towards the other and they say, I'm being authentic. But I think it's a great misunderstanding, but it's kind of a shadow of Gestalt therapy, I think, which is present in the trainings and it needs to be reflected and not, I think, mm, not supported by the example of trainers, that the trainers should show that being authentic is something different. Being
Mhm.
authentic is like taking responsibility for my presence in the presence of the other.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you, very interesting. And I also want to ask you about your Gestalt Institute. I know that you're leader of Czech Gestalt Institute. And can you name it and say what are the specific features of education
Yes,
specifically in your institute?
yes. Uh, yeah, the institute is called the Gestalt Studia. It's quite small institute, I think. There are three other institutes in my country, and we are the youngest one, I think. So I think we I think we started like 12 years ago, something like that. I'm not quite sure now. Um, I was teaching in other Gestalt institutes, but then I started this my own together with my colleagues. Okay, maybe I would like to stress a few things because the I was lucky in a way that I could create the institute, the structure of the institute based on the experiences from other institutes, but then I could create my own, and I was quite free in it. I could do it the way that was meaningful to me. So, um, uh, and of course, I had the very basic frame of the accredited institutes, so like EAGT and also the Czech Accreditation Institute. So I had to keep the frame of the hours, but the general um, the general structure is based on the competencies model, I would say. That there are three levels of the training. The first level, like 2 years, the first 2 years that people have, they work mainly in the self-experiential group. So they work on themselves. They develop the competencies to cope with themselves, yeah, basically to uh, mm, somehow have the capacity to contain what they experience and to have freedom when expressing it.
Mhm.
It's done in self-experiential groups, and then they have some basic theory during these 2 years, and it finishes with kind of a personal evaluation where they got after these 2 years, what they want to learn more. And then there's a switch, and they have there's the second layer or second step of the training, which is based on skills training. And I think this is important that we switch trainers there. So they meet different people, not the people who know them personally from personal processes, but now
Mhm.
they are the new trainers in small groups. They're like groups of 11, 20, 12 people, no, maybe less, I don't know, around 10 people in small groups. And they have different trainers who switch in the small group and they just train the basic skills. So that there's a lot of training like client, therapist, observer, or the group is an observer, and they get a lot of feedback to what they do. Um, and they have also quite a lot of theory uh, developing the skills connected with the basic skills. And then I think, and this is something quite unique. I don't know if it's present somewhere else in some other institutes. I would be interested in that, but I think this it works very well. That at the end of the second step, there is a exam where exam of the the skills. So um, they bring a video. This our students. They bring a video of their real work with a real client, and the video with some comments, reflections on what they did and why they did that. It's a written reflection, and then they present the video to the little group, and they um kind of explain what they did. They get some responses, some questions from the trainers, some feedback from the little group also, which is a lot of like learning for experience for everyone.
Mhm.
And but what I think is unique or very useful here is that this exam doesn't come at the end of the training, but it comes in two-thirds of the training
Mhm.
because they still have 2 years of the training. So after the fourth year, they finish the skills part, and they get a very detailed feedback on to what is like what they can um, use as their kind of a self-supportive ground as therapists, and what are the points where they need to focus on in the next 2 years of the training. And this like very specified individualized feedback is given to each student, but it's also given to the trainers who will work with them for the next 2 years. So I think this is I like it very much because if the exam is at the end of the training, the trainees they often say, well, yeah, you're right. This is not I'm not so good in this. I need to develop it, but you should tell me earlier. Yeah, now it's too late when it's the training is at the
Mhm.
end now. So we do it after 4 years, and then they have this. Uh,
Sorry, does it mean that in the end of fourth year they need to have their own private practice?
yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
They should start their work with their clients from the third year of the training.
Mhm. Mhm.
So after the self-experiential part, but most of the people who come to the trainings now, they are older and they already have some kind of a practice even before the training, a kind of a
Mhm.
psychological practice or a consultant practice. So it's not usually it's not a problem.
Mhm. I see.
Um, so so then when they finish the fourth year, there are 2 more years of supervision and specific advanced clinical theory. So there they bring their cases. They work in another three groups, but different. The students are uh, the groups are reformed, and they have supervisors. So they are new trainers, and they bring their cases, and they also get some theory about clinical practice, Gestalt therapy in clinical practice. And
Mhm.
then, and also during these 2 years, they work on a case study. So this is, and they have an individual consultant to work on a case study. So at the end of these 2 years, they their case study is finished, written, and they defend it at the very end of the training. So it's quite intense time, but at the end of the 6 years, all the students, they just defend their case study and they become Gestalt therapists. They get the certificate and they don't have to do any more like duties after the training. Not everyone finishes it. Like, I mean, there are always like few, three people who I don't know, sometimes like a mother who just gave birth to her child and she didn't have time to write the case study. So she can do it later with the next group. But the big majority of the group, almost everyone finishes and gets the certificate, and there's a wonderful celebration at the end. Maybe I would like to mention this because it just happened last month and it was a
Mhm.
wonderful experience. The people who finished the training, we like all the trainers who were with them during the training, they come. So there are, I don't know, 15, 16 trainers present there at the final like celebration. And then the students they create kind of a promise, or what is it? I don't know the English word for it, but kind of a statement how they want to do Gestalt therapy, what kind of a therapist they want to be
Mhm.
based on their values. And they have 1 hour to go out and create this statement. And then in front of the whole group and in front of all the trainers, outside, there are two very big trees. So between the trees, each person who comes gets a certificate and then claims, okay, I as a Gestalt therapist want to do my practice based on these values and this way. And they say it their own way. It's their own vision of doing uh, Gestalt therapy the best way they can. And it's very touching moment for each of us to see it and to see how people are really grounded in their own values.
Mhm. Yeah, probably very powerful and kind ritual.
It is, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Okay, thank you. So you teach Gestalt therapists, and do you teach Gestalt supervisors?
Yes, too, but it's a different kind of a training. But
Mhm.
I also teach Gestalt supervisors, yes.
Okay. And how many years do they need to become a
For
super?
yeah, it's basically 2 years, sometimes a little bit longer. That there's an
Mhm.
exam at the end, so
Mhm.
2.5 years, yes.
Mhm. Okay. And how many students,
But it,
teachers?
sorry, just to add, it's a kind of extra training after finishing the basic training.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
of course.
Hmm.
And how many students, teachers, and training programs do you have in your institute generally or this
Yeah,
year?
yeah. As I said, we are quite small institute, and I like it. I must say I like to do things rather slowly and with a lot of attention, not to expand too much. So we start every 2 years. We start a new group, the group of what is that, 28 people. Um, and this group goes with us for 6 years. And but after 2 years, another one. So we have all the time we have like three groups in different stages, and each one of them is in the different level of the training. Um, and we have, I don't know exactly how many trainers. I think we have about like 14 trainers in the basic team. And now we have junior trainers, three more who are preparing themselves for the career of a trainer because some of us are getting older and some will retire in some few years. So we need new trainers. But it's a very slow process.
Yeah.
I have to look a lot into the future and to have some kind of a vision of the training in the future. And I like this kind of like forming something together with my colleagues for the future. Yeah.
So you said that it's 28 students per one group.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's 60, 70 students per institute
Yes.
in the in
In
this
one
time.
time, and we just finished two groups until now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not it's quite small. Yeah,
Yeah.
but also there are some postgraduates programs starting for for our graduates. We also invite foreign trainers sometimes, not often, but sometimes they step into the training or they offer something extra for our students. Um, then I'm also involved, as I said, with the Italian colleagues in the Turing School of Psychopathology. So there is more that we can offer on the international basis, but also to our students when they graduate.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm. Thank you. And how do you think what's the biggest challenges do Gestalt therapy students face during their training, and how does your institute help them overcome these challenges?
yeah. Hmm. Let me think about it. Hmm. Well, I think that there are several challenges uh, when they kind of a mind switch that they have to do during the training. That when they come into the training, usually they are focused, or that they come with the intention to learn Gestalt therapy. Yeah, I want to learn how Gestalt therapy is conducted. How can I do it properly? And they don't get it in the beginning of the training. They get the self-experience first. So it's kind of a frustration. I'm not learning what I how to do it, but I need to focus first on myself. So I think it's very meaningful for our work as Gestalt therapists that we uh, first learn how to work with ourselves, and only then we learn to apply a method. So but this is challenging, and some people are quite frustrated by that. And how to do it? I mean, uh, it's I think it's very useful to make it explicit from the very beginning, so they somehow understand why we do it. Yeah, the why we first offer them space for themselves, so that they learn how to work with themselves. So if they know that there is a reason why it is done this way, I think it's more understandable, and they can stay. So this is one switch, and then there is another switch when they, in 2 years of the self experience, they learn how to focus on themselves, how to work with themselves, and they become somehow important to themselves. And now the switch is to somehow forget about how important they are and see the other. Yeah. So it's another, during the skills training, they learn the the dialogical perspective, to say that it's not me, but it's me in the dialogue. And I am adjusting to the other, and I'm observing myself as a part of the relational pattern which is being present in the therapy situation. So that's another switch which is quite challenging for them, from the monopersonal perspective, seeing either the client or themselves, now seeing the interaction. And
Mm,
so so that's another challenge. And sometimes some people manage it quite well during the third and fourth year. For some, it's too big step. They are still fixed on the monopersonal perspective, so they need some specific feedback, as I told you, at the end of the fourth year during the video presentation. They get some concrete inspirations how to include the dialogical perspective into their work. So that's this turning point. And then um, I think the third turning point comes during the supervision part, when um, the field theory, the field perspective comes. And suddenly they see that it's not only the client, it's not only me, and it's not only the dialogue, but there is a much bigger field and forces and field organization patterns that we need to consider. So they become even less important for themselves, I would say. They need to develop this kind of a not knowing approach that I was talking about. Yes, that they know a lot already in the five after 5 years of the training, and the final part of the training is more about being humble and like letting all the knowledge and skills work from the background to inform our intuition, but keeping the not knowing open approach to whatever emerges. It's so these are big switches in their mindset. Someone manages it, someone like manages only something, and then later, after the training, especially the field theory perspective comes for someone. It comes some years after the training, and we offer a special postgraduate training for that.
Mhm.
Um, how we help them to cope with this, I think it's mainly that we uh, try to give kind of a model as trainers that we are able to stay in the not knowing state,
So you
managing.
mean you show how
Yes, yes,
to feel it, to express
yes,
it? Mhm.
yes, yes. I think that's the easiest way to teach it, just to show it. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Um, how is the professional identity of a Gestalt therapist formed during the training process? Maybe there is some stages or some comments from you. How do you see it?
Well, for me, it's always a tension, kind of a creative tension, that people are somehow proud to be Gestalt therapists and proud to be students of our institute. And at the same time, they don't feel they are something better than therapists from other approaches, or they are something better than therapists from other Gestalt therapy training. So this is the tension to be proud for what I have, and at the same time to somehow to use this self-support for being open to inspiration from others, not to compete and not to compare. And I think this is kind of a identity that I would love to that our students have, like this being proud for who they are and being open and humble to learn from others who are different.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, and what ethical issues most often arise during training?
Yeah, well, it's not an easy question. I mean, we were quite lucky until now that we didn't have any kind of a big ethical issue like crossing the borders from either students or trainers' side. So it may come, of course, but it didn't come until now. What was quite difficult was the time during the COVID, where the the trainers and me as a leader of the institute, we had to take some decisions that were not discussed, not shared with students, but we just had to do it. Like for example, we had to decide whether in the beginning of the COVID time whether we want to stop the training for a while and then continue face to face, or if we want to continue online. Now it seems obvious, but then at that time we didn't have information. We didn't know how long it can last, and we had to decide. And this created some tension that some students didn't want to work online and didn't feel being heard in their needs. And somehow we had to use our power in this and say, oh, this is how it will be, because we think is the best way, but we were not sure, of course. No one was sure. But
Mm.
so this was an example of one ethical issue. But basically, I think for me the most um, sensitive ethical issue is how to use my power as a trainer. Um, and I need to remind myself again and again that whatever I say from the position of trainer, it's much more powerful than if I say it as Jan, as a human being. So from the position of a trainer, I might make a little joke, I might make a little criticism, but for the student who might be in some kind of a personal process, it it may be very strong and even destructive feedback. So I this is the issue for me, how to really take the position of authority, which creates safety, and at the same time be very sensitive to how harmful uh, the tiny things can, tiny interventions can be from this powerful position. Yeah, yeah, I would stress, I would like to stress this. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Thank you for your interesting answers and for sharing your experience. And maybe uh, you can say the biggest challenges you institutes face overall, and and what challenges do you face personally as a leader of institute?
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
told something about COVID times.
Yes,
Maybe there is something else.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, the COVID times, it was very challenging, and at the same time, it really helped us as a team of trainers to collaborate intensively and to trust each other. And now I told you about the group that just finished last month, and it was the group that went with us through the COVID time. So their training was very not typical in some ways. There was a lot of improvisation with online setting and other setting issues. So. But then finally, when I saw the people who went with us through all this, it was so touching to see that we managed together to go through hard times. So finally, it was good, but it was really challenging. Some people left, a few people left. Um, uh, We we are lucky that we have a lot of applicants. It's not only our training, but in the whole our country, there are many people interested in Gestalt therapy. So we have this luxury that we can really choose very good people from, yeah, because there are like many times more people applying than we can actually take in, or I don't know, many times, but let's say 4 times or 5 times more. So we can really pick up the best people, which is great. Um, so this challenge is not coming yet, but I know that for some institutes in the Western Europe that there are not enough students, so it will come, but not now. Um, what I find as a challenge now is that we are getting older, all the trainers, and like 3 trainers already like left the institute because either they were like they felt old for such a work, or it was like too much for their personal life. Um, so how to keep us fresh as a team. So how to involve new people um, in in a fluent way, so that we, as an organism, we just keep moving Yeah, that's a challenge for me now to search for new people, to include them into the team, to have a to provide them with good kind of a train education as trainers, and at the same time to respect their individuality. Maybe I would like to mention one thing as a challenge now, which comes to my mind, that I'm quite aware of the fact that the world is changing around us, and that it's the atmosphere, the processes around us in the society are different that they were in the time of my trainings in 90s. So it's very different. And the people who come now into the trainings, the students, they are different. They come with different issues, different processes, I would say. And I would like to mention one that uh, the world is very fragmented today and very like loaded with new impulses everywhere through news, social media, and all that. So people are somehow overloaded with impulses, and what they need is kind of a quiet time for sedimentation, for integration. And so this is kind of a change in our in how we understand therapy now, that the therapy is not so much a place to discover something new, but it's more a place to integrate what people bring with them and which is like overwhelming.
Mm,
And
mhm,
and if we want to teach our students to work this way, we need to make also the training this way, so that it's not a place where like new things are again discovered. Of course, some are, but the main focus is on integration,
mhm,
consolidation, um, grounding in the personality function, who they are as Gestalt therapists, who they are as people, what is the meaning of them working this way.
mm,
So I think this is a challenge for us to adjust the way we teach in Gestalt therapy to the changes of our time.
mhm, mhm. And does Gestalt therapy popular in Czech Republic?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. We are lucky. We are
Mm,
lucky that it is quite popular, and it has quite a good reputation in also in a clinical setting.
mm,
There are quite many clinical psychologists, psychiatrists who have
mm,
gestalt therapy training, so we are lucky in this sense. Yeah.
mhm. Is there anything you would like to change or revise in the existing programs of Gestalt therapy
Yeah.
teaching?
Well, that's a good question. Um, well, there's a maybe, maybe there is a one idea that I don't know actually how to do it, but I think there is a need for some more self-experience at the end of the training. Yeah, of course. In the end of in the beginning of the training, people need to, as I was speaking about it, they need to learn who they are, how they manage themselves as a very basic tool. But then, when they go through the training, they learn much more about Gestalt therapy, about themselves, about relationships, and I think that some kind of a personal integration into their own processes, into their own personal development, I think it would be useful to have some kind of a self-experiential part of the training at the very end of the training. Yeah.
Mm. So
But I don't know how to do it yet.
more integration is this changing world.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Thank
yes.
you. How do you see the development of Gestalt therapy in the near future?
Well, I feel lucky that I think I'm part of one stream of Gestalt therapy, which is like developing the approach, and that's the field theory and psychopathology mm, movement connected with the Torino School of Psychopathology and the international community around the online programs and also the residential programs that we make every year. So this is one development that I'm really part of, like stressing and um, elaborating the field theory approach more as it can be applied into the clinical work. So that's one possible development which is happening. Um, Another development is the integration that the Gestalt therapy is not like mm, strictly mm, differentiated from other approaches, but it's kind of a one psychotherapy approach with different focuses that we can get inspiration from other approaches from neurosciences and other sources of inspiration. So there is it's a living approach.
Mhm.
That's another development that I can see. Um, and then probably something which is connected with a social and natural environment like that. Uh, mm, Many changes are now come with online practice, where the practice is less formalized and closer to the people and much more flexible. Now there's another movement, the therapy in nature, and including nature somehow more into our practices. And so it's not only social environment, but also wider natural environment, and including these aspects into our work. It's another way of development. And of course, AI mm, somehow might step in. I don't know how, but probably it will. Yeah, I don't see it, but
It is
yeah.
already. Okay, and I want to ask, what is the legal form of ownership of your institute? Is it private institute or something else?
Yes, it's a private institute,
Yeah. Okay.
and we started it with my colleague, and that's a big, very important support for me that we started it like two people, and I'm leading the program um, regarding the content of teaching, and my colleague, he's a manager, so he takes care of finances and all the uh, managing processes in the background. So, and that's wonderful for me because I don't have to take care of that. I trust him that he takes care of that it works well financially and organizationally, and I can just focus on teaching and
Mm. Mhm.
um, yeah, and the concept of teaching. That's my
Mhm.
task.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And is there anything else that, in your opinion, should be known about Gestalt therapy training, but we have not touched?
Let me think about it. Well, hmm, there's something I'm very much aware, but I was not aware of it when I started the training. I was not aware how much it influences the lives of people. That
Mm.
I thought this is a training program. It's kind of a school. It's a special school, but it offers people some kind of education. But of course it does. But it also influences their lives so much. Yeah, when they finish after the 6 years of the training, they often say that the training has changed their life. Yeah, and they got they became part of new community. And this very big influence, I was not aware of it, but now I'm more and more aware of it, how we influence the lives of people by the values we mm, implicitly share with them by being who we are. Um, and also that we are creating kind of a culture of respect, culture of dialogue, um, and sometimes I think this is the most important thing.
Mhm.
That all these things about like the issues about teaching something, teaching Gestalt therapy, learning Gestalt therapy, competencies and all that, this is of course important. But maybe the underground processes of creating some new culture of respect and dialogue, maybe this is why we actually do it without
Mm.
knowing about it. But
Yeah. Does it mean that your own trainings change your life?
that's a good question. Um, well, when I think about my own training years ago, um, yeah, definitely it did in some way, but I needed more time. I needed more trainings to somehow find my own way. So it was a kick for a start, but then I needed to find my place and my
Mhm.
way.
It wasn't that easy, yeah?
Pardon me?
It wasn't that easy. I mean, it was not very
Um,
easy, was it?
it was also because my training, it was, as I told you, it was in 90s and it was like very like creative and chaotic at the same time because like there were trainers coming from outside. It was something new here. No one knew how to do it. So there was a lot of energy and not so much structure.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think in this way, the trainings we are providing now are more um, like consistent or whole.
yeah. Mhm. Okay, thank you very much. This it's all questions from me, and thank you for sharing your experience. It was very interesting to speak to you.
Yeah, thank you, Alexei, for running this project. I mean, this is very much needed. Yeah. The work of trainers, it's quite lonely work, and we need the community of trainers and especially the leaders of the institutes. Yeah, we share
Yeah.
the, we share the mission.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.